But when there's big stuff going on like this, you got to be really careful about putting too much vestige into those numbers.
Because that's it. It's the higher range is just slow right now. It's just, those are the people that, like you said, they can afford to wait and see how this is going to go. Like older people selling to older people, to me, is not happening as much as like the young people just trying to get in somewhere. Or the investors, right? People that just say, well, looks like a good opportunity.
Well said, said well. So put a little title on it here. So can you come up with can I put the marketing genius on the spot and come up with a one sentence title about, I mean, you can even title it what you want. You could say, you know, you could go 101, say, how's the market?
Yeah, this too shall pass. I really think we have to remember the underlying factors that are still at work for you. You know, obviously there's demand there, and it's all those, like for us, low interest rates, right? High demand, low supply. We even have land that's locked outside of our area that the province and government has said you can't build here because it's all green belts. And so we almost have these geographical factors that cause price inflations where we are. Similar, Vancouver's another market like that in Canada, where there's mountains on either side. It's like you can't build there, right? Maybe you can. When I fly over California, I see a lot of homes up in the mountains. But this too shall pass. The underlying factors are still at work. And when people start feeling safe, that's when things start to really turn around.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing anyway. Yeah.
I would say,
and in the meantime, I would say the secondary title is don't inject yourself with hand sanitizer. That's never a good idea. Am I right? I mean, wow. A lot of us are looking at your country. If I don't want to turn this into politics, but we just kind of like, we scratch our heads and go, oh, okay, that's a bit odd.
There's a lot of us down here, brother.
Anyway, yeah.
I would say the title for me would be, you know, our oxygen is always going to be the stats, but it's like, man, be careful which stats you're actually looking at right now if you're trying to carry those forward to be the leading indicators to make your decisions off of. And I would say be doubly cautious, double down on, you know, the media that's coming at you right now too. Like case in point, we had our local rag here, Union Tribune, San Diego, front page of the real estate deal. I don't know, this is 2 weeks back, whatever. And it said, it was like big 72 bold face Arial font, just like soaked up all the ink. And it was just basically like, if you squint your eyes, it was like doom and gloom, right?
Right.
Remember exactly what the hell they used. And what they cited the fact that mortgage applications were down like some absurd amount from the week before, right? So it's like, if you just read that and then you read that stat, so like title, subtitle, and you make your decision based on that, because who the hell's got time for all that small stuff in the columns underneath, right?
Right.
And you take it out of context, you think the sky is falling. But the nuance of that was the week before was when we had the lowest rates have ever been recorded since they started tracking it in the mortgage-backed security market. It actually got down to 3. If you threw a little money at it, you get under 3 for a 30-year fix, which was insane. So every single homeowner in America put a refi application in, and the rate jammed up to like 4.5, like within 48 hours.
Right.
So of course, mortgage applications were, you get what I'm saying? It's like, you look at those stats I was just showing you right there, kind of maybe in a different capacity, but just there's numbers right now. They tell the truth to a degree, but they work best when they work in lockstep with trends. And you can adjust the nuance, like a Tiger Woods swing between an 8 or a 9 or a 9 out of 10 out of 10. Mm-hmm. You can adjust there and make definitive elements accordingly. But when there's big stuff going on like this, you got to be really careful about putting too much vestige into those numbers. Would you agree with that?
Well, especially March. So the example when I talk about average pricing and when you kind of lump things together is that you get this effect where, you know, if you had a body and half of it was in the oven and half was in the fridge, you'd say, well, the average body temperature is just perfect, right? But it's a very poor indicator of the actual health of that the body.
Well said.
And that's what it is. The first half of March was on fire, and the second half cooled down, and there was an adjustment period. I think when we get the stats for April, that'll be the more true sense of what's actually happened. But the newspaper is it's like, if it bleeds, it leads. So what's more exciting to say, is the mortgage applications are up or the sky's falling? It's people in media love to attach themselves to, I mean, I've been looking, like, there's been talk of bubbles in Canada for 20 years, and eventually they're going to be right. Right. But it's like, you know, it's just, when you have nothing else to say, you just say something like that, you know, things are bad. Shifts do provide opportunities. And I think the worst case scenario now we're seeing with sellers is probably about a 5% drop in prices. Those are those guys, like I said, that are motivated, that have to sell. But in some cases, we're seeing sales at the same numbers as we did back in February. There's been no change. And in fact, some of them have even pushed the numbers up a bit. So when markets shift for us, what we're seeing is there's a different spread, right? Is that, you know, whereas you could kind of say, okay, a townhouse might sell between, you know, in a $10,000 or $20,000 range. What we're seeing now is it might go to like $50,000. Is there's more swing between. And it's mostly motivation, right? It's mostly how bad do they need to get rid of this place.
Right.
That's
the old comp bomb that we all experienced in, you know, what was that, 08, 09, I don't know.
Yeah.
Never the, you know what, hit the you know where. It's that Warren Buffett analogy, right? It's like, you know, the tide's up, everybody looks like they're swimming, they're all having a good time. And to a buyer, you're looking at this purview, and everybody looks the same. There's a homogeny to it, right? You don't have the X-ray goggles. That tide goes out. You know, if there was 10 sellers out there before, as you said, what did you say the attrition was for your volume out there for sellers?
About 60. So 60% less listings new coming out. There's still the stuff that was there before, and then you have about 60% down on overall sales.
Right. So it's always going to be that gradient there as you kind of slough through the stuff that was already out there. But let's just say that where there was 10 before, there's only 4 out there now. You know, one of those 4 financially secure, would still like to sell, doesn't actually need to, so they're hanging on. So that leaves 3. You know, maybe 2 of those people are sketch, but all it takes is 1. And that 1 that goes out, it's got no sconies on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No sconies on, hanging out there. Everybody's looking, they're laughing, they're pointing, they're taking pictures. It's cold water. You know the scenario, you know? Yeah, it's like, boom. And that 1.2, you know, has to take what they can get. And then it's comp bomb style, you know, and then panic ensues. Appraisers don't want to hit the numbers anymore because they want a CYA against their bank. Buyers are all sketched out because they feel like that's the new waterline mark for the whole neighborhood. And then the capitulation ensues. So
yeah, it's one bad sale. A market's only as good as its last few sales, right? I mean, that's the nature of it. But you hope that enough of them are still going to hold out that you can say, well, that one became the outlier versus the new norm.
And when things are going up, that's an easy conversation to have. But when there's economic uncertainty and there's the fear that things are going down, that doesn't just become an outlier. It becomes the fear monger of where everything is heading.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially to the neighbors, the 20 neighbors around that house. Right. Yeah. So it's a real interesting time. And then you overlay that with people's thoughts around, like, how scared am I? I mean, there's people now that seem to think, well, who cares? Like that herd immunity kind of camp, right? And unfortunately, that's become a red-blue issue, you know, south of the border where you are, versus like, I'm not even going to leave my house because I'm so scared. Like, everybody fits into some dynamic there, is that there's a comfort spot for everybody. And it's not all a one size fits all, right? Nobody's kind of right in the middle. And it's situational. Like I said, I might feel like showings to me are not a big risk. somebody else does. You know, I had a client who decided today, he's like, I want to see this home. And then he called me an hour later and said, actually, I don't want to see it. I'm too nervous about things. So it can change by the hour too, you know, perception, depending on what headline you read last, right? Yeah. But I think we all just need to be responsible and just kind of say, okay, look, you know, it's okay to feel. Everything moves, right? Like in nature, you know, you have, you know, yesterday it was windy, today it's not, right? And even the way people feel, I know this isn't real estate related, but I know you have a group of people you work with, and, you know, sometimes they have bad days, sometimes they have good days, and it's okay, right? I mean, it's natural to ebb and flow. And, you know, I think we just need to kind of remember to support each other too. That's the main thing. I mean, this has the opportunity to divide people or bring them together. And I just hope that more people choose to kind of bring it together.
Well, I don't know how better to put a ribbon on it than that right there. So
yeah,
Chuck Charlton, you know, real estate guru up north of the border. And if you're moving to Milton, now you know, you look for the purple backdrop with the matching coat and that smile right there that'll last for days. Hey, yeah. Deadly DJ too. We'll have to hit on that next time together, brother. Appreciate you hanging out.
All right. Thanks, Jesse.